Okay, good morning, good evening, or good day, good night, whatever it is for you. And welcome back into the new year. Yes, today, let's start with a few examples. So if you have examples, please write them into YouTube, share them. The more examples we have, the easier it is for all of us to experience what is actually going on. And I'll just start by sharing an example that happened to me. I was teaching, and we were doing an exercise, and I was asking if anybody wants to do the exercise again. Now that's not really a question to which a generator has an answer. So I went from person to person. Each person, I knew what they were. So I asked, do you want to do it again? And they would have a yes, no answer immediately out of their body. And then I came to the manifestor, and I had no clue what to do. What do you do with a manifestor? So we worked on what do you do with a manifestor when you want to ask them a question, or when you want to know whether they're going to do it again or not. And so for the manifestor, we worked out that it feels comfortable if we say, let me know what you decide. So it's like a statement. To the generator, I give a question. Do you want to do it again? To the manifestor, let me know what you decide. And what do you do with the projector? You give them an invitation. If you would like to do it again, you are welcome to. That's an invitation. You are welcome to. You're welcome to if you decide. The manifestor, let me know what you decide. It's got to be, it's just manifestor language. That's the way they treat us too. Let us know. They don't invite us, or they don't say, let's go do this together. They give statements. Yeah. And for the reflector, goodness knows, the reflector does not like to be ignored. That's a very, very sensitive subject. So you cannot just ignore the reflector, because it doesn't really have an in-depth answer.
It's best just to ask as well. And then 80 to 90% of the time you'll get the answer, I don't know. But there is nothing wrong with asking.
What if you say to the reflector, do you have the energy for this? Instead of do you want to? Do you have the energy for this? Does that help?
It doesn't change. No, because there is usually no answer in the moment. And still sometimes there is, and it feels good to be asked, because then the process can be started. So usually it would be a question, do you want to go again? And then it's usually first a no or a I don't know. And then it's a little bit like the projector. And then the answer comes out at some point. But it's a big difference if it's a big decision or if it's a small decision. If the decision was correctly taken to partake in the exercise that Una offers, then yes, no questions are perfect, because I already had the time to make sure that I'm in the right place at the right time.
So actually, even when I state it like a generator question, it's actually an initiation into finding the answer.
Yep. It works.
Good. Yes, another example that happened was being around a generator mother and a projector child, and just observing that interaction. Generator mother, always asking, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And sort of that energy of pushing. And the projector child, kind of, there's no response. Now I'm a generator mother with a projector child, and there's no response. It's almost like they're trying to pull away in a way. And then when as a generator mother, you do not ask anything. You're not looking for that reaction. As a generator, I'm always looking for a response. I'm giving, I'm putting out a question and I'm expecting a response. And that's like cogwheels latching into each other. And then you've got this child that doesn't latch into the cogwheel, that doesn't actually really respond in a healthy way. And you can feel it's not healthy. So watching the generator mother just relaxing, pulling back, and seeing how the projector child then blossoms, then starts to really come out of its own. That was a very beautiful experience that we had. Yeah. So that's about experiences. Does anybody else have an experience that they want to share with the types, with the different types? Maya, you're smiling.
No. Let me think a while. Yeah.
Whenever you're ready.
Yeah. Let me think a while.
Now, again, you saw I asked into the blue, and there was no real answer from anybody because I didn't, And you're a generator, aren't you, Maya?
Excuse me?
You're a generator, right?
I think so. I don't know. I think so.
Okay, so
I think so.
Okay. So what I should have asked is, Maya, do you have an example that you want to share?
Yeah, with a reflector sun, maybe.
That.
Yeah. Well, the reflector sun, he didn't really say much. He was very, I had to ask, and then he didn't even want to answer. So I felt a lot of time, am I wrong? Am I doing wrong? What's wrong with me? Because the sun did not explain himself, what he felt. So that was very, I felt insecure to do the right thing. Yeah. I think sometimes, yeah, I don't know. Maybe he talked more to other people than to his own mother. Or it's an example like in the school, when he was in school, there was a teacher, she was very special. She pulled down the children. She said, you're not good in that, you will not, you don't understand what I mean, and a special teacher. And then Lorenz never told anything. And then I talked to a mother. She had a girl, and the girl, didn't want to go to school anymore. She was afraid. She was crying in the morning. I don't want to go to school. And then another mother and another mother. And then I organized some meeting with these mothers. Lorenz didn't say anything. And then we had a big thing, and the teacher had to leave because she had a big problem with herself. And then I asked Lorenz, why didn't you say anything about that to me? And then he said, I felt so sorry for her. So I thought, wow, I did not know what he really, he must have seen much more than we realized. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
something special about about you, Lorenz. Maybe you know the story, but it's a good example of understanding more, but not talking about it. Something like that.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
he never asked me for advice or something. He just, yeah, I had to ask to make understand what's going on with him. So, yeah. And in my design, there is only two
Centers.
two things mit einem zwei
two centers defined, only
yeah,
two centers.
two centers defined. And I also have this sometimes I don't talk. I also have this speciality not to talk, not to explain myself, and people around me don't know what I'm thinking. So somehow I can understand that he not explained himself, and I do somehow the same thing. But yeah, it's something very open, not defined, with me as well. And I don't have clear ideas of what I want. I just somehow try to feel what's right. Yeah.
Yes, you have a very open system too. I just looked at it. You have the sacral and the root defined.
Yes, right.
Just not having the throat defined. The danger with not having the throat defined is that we talk too much. So reflectors who talk too much, they're actually in their not self.
Yeah.
Or people who don't have the throat defined, they can very easily move into the not self and talk, and nobody understands them. So yeah, and still the reflector, the reflector aura in itself, although people with a very open system think they can understand it, Rao Ruhu points out very clearly that the aura is completely different. Even if you only have two centers defined, they are such different specimens, and I think that's what you're bringing across very beautifully, Maya. That it's like like, what is this? Who is this? And I think you did a beautiful job of raising him, because to me he is a reflector who's truly a reflector, who can really stand in this, not speaking about everything, but still having a huge knowledge that others just can't even grasp.
That's it.
And they can't operate like we can if they're in their true self. It's Lorenz and I, we talk about this a lot. We both have an expanded awareness, but that expanded awareness is very, very different. So even though we can see, I can see how the energies flow, I see energies and I see how people interact and what's happening. And he sees it too, but he sees it in a different way.
Okay.
And he really has worked, very, very hard at being a true reflector, where you're not trying to be a generator, where you're not trying to be a manifestor and push, but just even looking looking now, he's very relaxed and very, very laid back, and probably has a lot of things in the back of his head, but he knows what to say and what not to say.
Okay.
And he knows when to say it. Because he knows we're not all going to get what he's going to say. And it doesn't help what he's going to say at this moment. Yes, very beautiful. Thank you, Maya. Lorenz, do you have something to say to that? See, you know, I initiate him and he can say,
Thank
right
you.
No, not right now, but it's beautifully said.
Okay, let's get started with part of the idea that I want to talk about today. Just on the side, people have asked about the moment of birth. What is the moment of birth? And it's that moment when the baby is separated from the body of the mother. So if the baby comes out head first, the moment of separation is when the feet come out, or if the baby comes bum first or feet first, the moment of separation is when the head comes out. So just for the precision of the timing of birth. Okay, so what I want to go into now, it has been initiated by somebody in the German group. They asked, what about animals? So Ra has talked about animals, but it's very difficult to find information about that. I'm just going to share the screen because his main object was to bring this out for humans. But as I looked into what about animals, I was absolutely fascinated by the information that came out. So perhaps this is not life-changing for most of us, but it's just an interesting topic that we can look at now. So I took a few screenshots of what I could see. So what happens is they have a different matrix. So as a human, we have, do I show this? As a human, we have a full matrix. We have 64 gates. Yeah, I know how to show this. We have the possibility of 64 different gates that could be possibly have a planet in them. Where are we? Zoom share. Yeah, these are the 64 gates. Now, an animal does not have the option of 64 gates. A plant does not have the option of 64 gates. They have far less. And we get our information in from the top. So and he talks about neutrinos bringing in the information and how we're being programmed. It comes in from the top. So here you can see that our top center actually sticks out of the body. And that's not the case with animals, plants, and inanimate things. Inanimate things like stones and cars and computers, etc., rocks. Okay, so back to sharing the non-human matrices. So if we look at, for example, a plant has only 4 gates that could possibly be inhabited by a planet. There's only 4 gates that matter, and the plant is upside down. The plant firstly takes its information from the ground. So these neutrinos that go through the whole cosmos that Ra talks about, that program us, they come first through the earth. So the plants take in the energy of the earth much more than we do, because our information comes from the stars. That's why we're so awed when we sit under the stars. So the plant is almost like upside down, and if we have gates that match the plant, we have an understanding, we have an inner resonance to the plant. We also have, the plant has one hanging gate, one possible hanging gate. Now, most plants don't have any planets in any of these gates. Okay, so here when you look at this, it's not that there's a planet there, this is just the matrix that is possible. And if the plant, when it is germinated, has, let's say, Pluto in the 10th gate, then this gate would be activated, and it would be possible for a human being who has the 5 activated to connect to the plant. So the germination of plants is very, very important when it comes to healing effects. So when does the farmer germinate the field is important. And there we can start understanding how with biodynamic agriculture, they're looking at the moon. They're looking at where the moon is. Is the moon, is the moon in one of these gates, would be the translation into human design. We also see that they only have 3 possible centers that could even be defined. And so the plants with an activated sacral, that's energy being produced, these plants give us energy. So these are the plants we eat. They give us energy. If the plant has not been, it does not have the sacral defined, which is most plants, then it doesn't have that energy. Then let me see, how was that? The spleen. The spleen is about well-being. So it is possible for a plant to have the spleen defined. It's possible, for example, that the plant has the 57, this gate here defined. It's possible that the human would have the 10 defined, and then they would actually create a bond together. Now for the well-being of, so the plant can help in well-being, and we know that in healing plants. And what Ra says, his phrasing is, we don't have to murder the plant. He says that to come in contact with the aura and the healing qualities of a plant, all we have to do is touch it. And so what you need is plants in your room, and what you do is you touch the plants to find that healing. So his way of having plants that heal is you germinate a plant at the moment where there's something in 57. So you could, for example, look at when is Pluto in 57, and Pluto is there for something like 3 to 6 years, 4 to 6 years. And then in that year, lots of healing plants would grow. But that doesn't happen that often. Pluto now is actually over here in the 60. So that's why I think biodynamics, they use the moon, because you have once in a month, you have the moon here activating that 57th gate. And if you germinate the plant there, you're creating a healing plant. Yes, and again, touch it, don't murder it, is what he says. We kill the plant to eat it when it's got sacral energy. We have it alive when it's for healing. And then we can see that here in the G center, the yellow center, it has 2 gates. And it has 2 gates. If you remember back to talking about the vessel of love, the vessel of love is, we talked about it when in the video about 2027. And this is about behavior. So this gate is about behavior. And it's about being able to love all behaviors, any behavior, whether it's, there's no judgment on behavior. That's the possibility that you have when you have gate 10. And so we know that plants can change our behavior. Those are the psychedelics. Okay, so this is not about saying you should be using psychedelics. I would say be very, very careful. From what I've seen is that it can be very, very dangerous, ripping apart the auric field, but we know that plants can change our behavior. And then the 15 here, it's also part of the vessel of love. The 15th gate is about rhythm. It's about patterning. And this is where a trans-species connection can happen. So a plant and another being with the 5, this is where there's a true connection in consciousness between the plant and the other being. Okay. Yeah, let's look at mammals. So mammals get their information on the horizontal line. So this is actually the same as when we're sleeping. When we are sleeping, when we're in dream time, we only have the option of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 centers being defined. The emotional, the solar plexus down here, is not defined, and our mind that thinks and our inspiration are not defined. We sleep. We are like animals then. We are like mammals on the horizontal. That is why in classes I say, stay sitting up, and you can lie down, but it shuts off your mind. And sometimes that's a good thing when people shut off their mind, because their mind is telling them a different story that gets in the way. So when you shut off your mind, you can actually take in things that you don't believe in. You can take in new concepts much easier because your mind is shut down. And that's especially true for people with a defined mind. Yeah, so mammals, these are the possibilities. So 70% of mammals don't have an activated, don't have anything, any full channel. So 70% of mammals are reflectors. And the trans species hanging gates are, there's 2 of them here, one from the root and one from the throat pointing towards the solar plexus, the emotional center. And so this is how mammals form a trans species emotional bond. They connect with us to get our emotions, right? It's not that they have emotions, it's that they can connect to our emotions. And when they connect here with the 12 to our emotions, this is about a social connection with emotions. And it's also about being able to hear the tonal differences. So they don't really understand exactly what you're saying, but they hear the tonality of what you're saying. So if you, in a very beautiful, loving voice, say, well, you were a very, very naughty boy, don't do that again, my dear little dog, they think you're praising them. You have to actually put anger into your voice if you're wanting to show them that you're not happy about something. And then you see this gate up here. I can't see what number that is, from the throat on the left, or from the throat up to the mind. So this gate is about patterning. So this is why we can teach mammals tricks, especially if somebody has the opposite gate that fits into, that connects here. They are very good at teaching mammals tricks, and mammals look for patterning. They're searching for that pattern. So if they get fed every time you walk out of the bedroom door, then that's the pattern. That's the pattern they are looking for, and that they really, really want. If you're taking out a tin, and they think that they're used to the tin being opened and that what the contents of the tin being for them, every time you take out a tin, even if it's not for them, they'll be there wagging their tail. And here, this gate from the root to the solar plexus it's the start of the mist. It's sort of mystical, but it's also about territory, and it's about needs. It's what do I need? What do the others need? What do we need so that everybody's happy? And so this is where mammals strike a very good deal with the emotions of a person. They strike this deal of, okay, you take care of my territory, or we take care of it together, and you feed me very expensive good food, and I get emotions from you, and we connect through the emotions. So and I'll be here for you. I'll listen to you. I'll do what you say, as long as I get my food and I have my territory. So okay. So I was just looking at the chat. Yes. Where was I? Yeah. So this is mammals, and we turn into mammals when we sleep. And if you want to, so mammals have the possibility of having a defined spleen. So if you have a person with an undefined spleen, they're constantly looking for well-being. They're constantly looking for that feeling where they feel safe. So for them to have a mammal that has a defined spleen, or with whom together they create that defined spleen, that is very, very healing. So when you get an animal, a pet, you actually want to know when it was born, get its design, see if there was anything in one of these three gates. Look at that combined chart. Just like we combined human charts, we can combine the mammal charts, see if there's anything in there that creates a defined channel. And then you have a walking spleen next to you. You're walking with your dog, and the dog makes you feel safe. You've got your dog in your bedroom, and he makes you feel safe at night. Okay, that's the mammals. Then we have insects. Okay, so insects don't have any hanging gate. They don't have a trans-species gate that can connect with any other beings on Earth. They are just themselves, and you get that. They've got the throat, so they can hum, and their behavior. The 10 here is behavior, and you've got also that very important life force energy of the 15 to the 5 on the left between the G center and the solar plexus. They have that patterning. They have that acceptance of all rhythms, all the highs and the lows, and the extremes of life. Okay, so yeah, you can't really make an insect your pet. There's no trans-species communication there. What else do we have? We do have here, we have the fish, the bird, and the reptiles. So they are also horizontal like the mammal, but the neutrino information comes in from the other side. So yeah, so like all the plants, the fish, the birds, the reptiles, none of them have emotions. None of them have that solar plexus. None of them have the ajna, the mind, the thinking mind. So none of them have that process of the mind that we have noticed over time. In evolutionaries, it used to be helpful to have a mind. Now we find that the mind can really get into the way, telling us stories. You know how it is that we build a story. Let's assume there's somebody is not arriving. You arranged to meet somebody at a certain time and they're not there, and your story can start to build, and it builds and builds, and they don't like me, and they decided to go somewhere else. They're probably with somebody else there, and you're just building this story, and all that happened was that they got stuck in traffic or something. So this is what our mind can do. We have to be very careful with the stories that we build in our mind, and in that way it is a great obstacle, a great hindrance for us. So none of the plants or animals or inanimate objects have that thinking mind, the ajna, or they don't have concepts, so they don't work with concepts. If you talk to a dog and you tell him about something you discovered in science, they will yawn at you. That's what Ra says. So I still have to experiment with that. But if you go, oh, you lovely, lovely dog, he'll come up and snuggle with you because you're interacting on an emotional level with the dog. And yeah, or the inspiration. None of them have the head. So the top two and the solar plexus are in none of these worlds.
And the ego.
And the ego, yes, absolutely. The ego is not, so that's willpower. Remember the heart, that little triangle there, that heart center, it's about willpower. I want this. So there is not even in the plant and in the mammal, there's not even any gate that could be directed at willpower. And that's different for the fish, the birds, the reptiles. Their only cross-species gate is from the spleen towards the heart center, towards the willpower. And what happens there is when we connect cross-species in a cross-species way with fish and birds and reptiles, we get this thing where it's almost like an oracle or an omen. And you'll find this in many traditions, that fish were used as an omen, birds were used as an omen, and reptiles were used as an omen. And you wait until the condor or the eagle appears, or you wait until the whale appears, and you have that connection to them. You call them in, and they give you direction. And it's not that they are in any way smart in an intelligent way, like their mind is functioning. It's not that they're smart in this way. They are smart in the spleen towards the heart, the possibility of connecting to humans and giving them directions. Yeah, I have many examples. When an eagle circles above you, he's there to connect with you and show you the way. If he starts flying in one direction, if you've communicated with the eagle, they're pointing to, that's the direction you need to take. You know, are you on the correct path? Are you on the best path for you? Yeah, so here we get into the shamanic realm, into the mystic realm. And we do have a defined throat, the possibility for a defined throat. So we have a possibility for a voice here. The same with mammals, there's a possibility for a voice. The plants don't have the possibility for a voice. Okay, let's look at the inanimates. Okay, thought I had it here. We'll just look at it here. The inanimate has just one gate, so it has no possibility of having any defined centers. It only has one hanging gate in the G center. So all inanimate things are reflectors. And now it's interesting that it's again, we're back to the vessel of love, but this time we're looking at the gate that goes from the G center to the heart, towards the heart center. It's gate 25. It's the gate in the vessel of love for connecting with spirit, loving the spirit, the essence in something, someone. Sometimes it's called the gate of the priestess who says all is well, all is good, and you can just feel that in inanimate objects. All is good, all is well, you know, nothing needs to be changed, and you can be there for years and years and years until the plate falls down and crashes and breaks. And that's also in the 25th gate. It's the gate of initiation and innocence. So the inanimate objects, they have an innocence about them. You can feel that. And initiation comes suddenly. When I initiate people, those who've been in my courses, in my initiation courses, you know that initiation happens in the snap of a second. The snap of the fingers is a bat of the eyelid. That's how initiation happens. So that's how they break. Ra talks about that in the way of saying they like to commit suicide. Plates just like to commit suicide. Glasses like to commit suicide. And he says, it's not that I made it fall, it's that the plate wanted to fall. It's and if you lost your keys, it's the keys that want to play hide and seek. It's just like being a child. It's that innocence of the child in the 25th gate of thinking that all is well, or feeling that all is well, and it's playing hide and seek. And so, you know, next time you come back and the keys are exactly where you thought you'd put them, but last time you looked, they weren't there. That's, he says, they have their own consciousness. And that's also something, tuning into the consciousness of items, of things, resonating with items and things. It's also, it's in my shamanic background, that realm that I've been trained in, and that I train people in, where you connect to the consciousness. Like, I'll pat my car, Lorenz knows that very well. I'll pat my car and say, well done, because we just went through a really big puddle, or over some big rocks and something, or we just flew past a police inspection in Kenya and were not stopped. Well done, car. And I give my car a name, and it's really good to name things and animals and plants. That's how we connect with them. We give them names. So yeah, all my cars have a name, and really good to give your musical instruments a name. Give your computer a name. It's an instrument that really matters to you, that you use a lot. You give it a name, and every once in a while you pat it and say, well done, I love you. And it will feel it. It has a consciousness, just that it's very limited to one gate. And I have that gate, and so I resonate very much with the inanimate. Crystals, same thing. They have a consciousness that you can feel into. So anybody who has the 25 or the, what's opposite that? 45, I think, from the heart to the G center, or the full, will have an intrinsic resonance with inanimate things.
Gate 51 is on the opposite.
Okay, thank you. So 25, 51. If you have 25 or 51, you will have that resonance and that connection to inanimate things. Yes, and then the last one is the single cell. Here again, we have the 15-5. It's that rhythm of life, that life force that is there, and then it's not there, and then it's there, and then it's not there. That love for, that all-encompassing love for the good and the bad, the big and the small, the just everything in this world. And single cells also have a hanging gate. They also have a cross-species way of interacting, and it's down here from the sacral towards the root. It's the 360. That's the 60, isn't it? Down there, I think so. So and cells are about mutation. So if you have the 60, and I do, and I think Lorenz, you also have the 60, we can connect to single cells, and single cells are here for us to initiate mutation. The 60 gate is, again, it's there, it's not there. It waits for the right time for when a mutation can happen, and just being present, just the pure presence of someone with gate 60 can mutate other beings, other form, and it can mutate cells. It can initiate that mutation. So if you have the 3 or the 60, you have that intrinsically within yourself. Yeah, do we have any questions here anywhere about anything? Let me just check whether I've said everything I want to say. Yeah, just maybe we have to really see that consciousness is in everything. That's the possibility that this human design shows us. Consciousness is in everything. It's only the design that's different. So remember how we looked at the design side, which is the form, which is the body, the red in our charts. And we look at the black side, that's the personality. And these are two different crystals that come together in us. So consciousness is in everything. It's just different. So it's, you know, when you see a bird, you say, who is that? What consciousness is that? It's not an it. When you see a ship, it's a consciousness that is there, that has been built. And with inanimate things, you may want to look at the manufacturing date to see how you connect with it. A little bit different with crystals, but if you're really actually wanting to, if you're in the business of manufacturing something, you can choose a date for the manufacturing of something by seeing if something is activated in the aura. Where did we have our inanimate object? So inanimate, if there's an activation in the 25 or the 51, then the aura of what you're manufacturing is going to be stronger. And it will most likely sell better. or if it is manufactured by someone who has the 25 and the 51 and instills this, activates this aura in a way that can also help. Like the person in the shop, if the person in the shop has a 25 or 51 and is selling inanimate things, that can really increase the aura of things. So Ra speaks about even when he cooks an animal, he says, he gives it a name. So people around him get used to saying, who's that in the oven? And it's his way of honoring that there's a consciousness there. Oh yes, also let's look at that again. So the mammals, when we eat the mammals, they have the root defined in comparison to the fish, bird, and reptiles. They don't have the root defined. So here we have the root defined, and that's connected to the adrenal system. So there's great stress that we eat when we eat mammals. And there's a whole lot of eating or not eating animals. And there's also something about releasing the stress in the animals before you kill them and eating them, so that you don't take on that stress, and that stress that can translate into aggression, translate into frustration. And that's the difference from a design point of view between eating fish, eating birds, and eating mammals. So from the human design point of view, when you eat fish, when you eat birds, it can be a way of receiving an oracle also, a direction. So if you look at in the fish, the birds, the reptiles, they have the possibility of the one, gate one, in the G center, and gate one is about creation. It's about direction. What direction do I take? Okay, is there anything else I wanted to say? Yeah, so yes, an example for not mind. You cannot ask an animal or a plant why it is doing this or that. That's another way of seeing how the mind could get in our way. I say we are as sick as our reasons. We keep on giving reasons. If you ask the animal, why are you wagging your tail? Why are you jumping up? Why are you killing a bird? Why are you ask the bee why it's going in this direction? It doesn't have an answer. It doesn't have a reason for anything that it does. So once we start giving reasons for things, we have to pay close attention to, are we getting into our own way with our mind, or is it actually helpful? And my sense is that 10% of the time it is actually helpful to give a reason, but 90% of the time there is absolutely no point for giving a reason. And that's what human design actually is trying to teach us, that we don't live in our mind, that we don't follow our minds that much, but we let go of the mind and take decisions, not with our mind, but take decisions with our authority and our strategy.
I just have a wonderful little example to that, because I'm around a little 4-year-old projector that it has splenic authority, and when she does things, sometimes I'm confused or curious why she did something, and seldomly I'll ask, why did you do that? And the most often I get the response, I don't know. And it's so beautiful that it's still there, because she is not compelled to give any reason. She just did something because her spleen moved her to do something. Doesn't matter why, and there is no answer.
That is so beautiful. And these answers, they are trained into us in school, aren't they? People want to have answers, and you're trying to figure out what answer do they want so that they're satisfied. and stop asking you questions.
I see that Marma has her hand up.
Okay, just one moment, just checking 19. Yes, just to finish this, the reptiles, the 19. Let's see, where do we have the reptiles? The 19. I mentioned that it was the start of the mystical circuit, and it's so the start of the mystical circuit is where we're looking for a god. We're looking for someone to be devoted to, and that's what the dogs are looking for. That's what the mammals are looking for. They're looking for that god, and we are that god to them if we provide them with a territory. Have all the sheep here, or have all the horses in this pasture, and that's the exchange of us being a god to the mammals. We look after them, we feed them, and they protect us and they heal us. And yeah, yes, Marama.
Hi, good morning, morena. Happy New Year. Hope everybody's well. Thank you so much for this presentation of our connection with the other sentinel beings that are being creators on our beautiful world. Looking at the charts, when it comes to the design and indication, there's usually a red for the design and then a black for the personality. Maybe
So
they could change the chart viewings. Also the gates have, like for my gates, I have red and black that intertwine through some of my channels, so I don't have a complete black or complete coloured solid red. I have a intertwining red and black in my channel.
So let me
but
just
yeah, I just noticed with those that the black line may need to be red.
That we have. It's not the black that we are used to seeing.
Right.
See this not as that. See the black here as this is the only possibility that they have. It's like our white.
Right. So there is no color definition.
They could have red. So this is only to show within our full chart what the possibilities are for definition, red or black, for here, for example, the birds and the reptiles. Most of them don't have any centers. Most of them are reflectors. So the black is only showing the matrix. So our matrix is the full thing. So this is, we have 9 centers as a full matrix, whether defined or not. But
I could actually understand it, that definitely the design is all is being developed, but the emotional side, because of the relationship as a human that we have with the harm, that their emotions wouldn't be as memorable, that they would know that the instinct, like for human, we would know and maybe have quite a fear if something was hunting us, where their instincts aren't as developed.
Yeah, the fears are here. Fight and flight, all that is here. It's not in what's called the emotional system. And the way the mammals,
their emotional sensitive, their senses are as not developed. So I just kind of thought with that black and red channels that the design is definitely developed and evolved, but if we go with our charts and we kept the consistency with how the lines are, I was just a little bit kind of trying to keep kind of focused with those colours. It was just something I'd like to highlight with. It's brilliant, but
the
yeah,
beginning.
looking at that.
That's why. You know, I talked about this at the beginning, and you may have missed that the black here does not represent what we're used to. It just represents the possibility of the form. So it's what creates the form. So whatever is black here is just what we would normally call white in our design. And what Ra says is that it's just a matter of what this, I'll call it soul, comes into. What kind of crystal does it come into? It might come into, the personality crystal might come into a form that is fish or bird, or the personality crystal might come into what is a mammal form, or it might come into what is a plant form or a human form. But the personality part is crystal is still the same. So in his terms, you could incarnate into anything, and there's no hierarchy. It's just a matter of what the form is. There's no evolution in that sense. So in his sense, if you believe in incarnation, you can reincarnate as a dog or a plant or a thing next time round.
And it would just be a different experience. Something that I find interesting is that the chi is defined in all of them, which makes sense because it's the center that holds the design and the personality crystal together in forms. So that you have that even in the inanimate object, and it just goes to show, yeah, how that is basically where the personality and the design come together in whatever that thing then is, if it is inanimate or mammal or fish or reptile. And what I also just find interesting to think about, I mean, we have our chart, but maybe to an ET race with 13 centers, they look at us just the way we look at fish and birds and reptiles now. And they see what kind of possibilities we have to be defined by the planets. That is all these things show here. It's kind of what's the circuit board for a fish or bird or reptile, or what's the circuit board for a mammal, and the circuit board for a plant. And we, of course, have our own circuit board to compare with.
Yeah, thank you, Lorenz. Just thinking of more examples when we connect with items. We just recently did some spoon bending, and you know, it cannot be done with the mind, but it can be done with the G center and the willpower. Yeah. So is that? Yeah, I hope that is clear to everybody that what we're seeing here is not that these things are defined just because they have a black line. It's just that this is the only matrix that is possible for them. And most of these beings are reflectors. They don't have full channels that create these defined centers. Okay. I'm thinking I think we leave it at that. Yeah. Anything else from anybody? No? Okay, then I'll turn off. Let's see, where are we? Just